Blink and Turnstile are like two of our major influences. It was insane, like, to meet the entirety of Blink in their like original form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, we are just honestly so starstruck to hang out with Turnstile. Like we love their music so much, and we listen to it all the time. And to get to do that was pretty cool. So
it's actually funny. On the tour we went on right before the Blink tour with Jaden, every day before the show we would blast Turnstile to hype us up.
Yeah,
and then
it's like literally our hype music.
It's literally our get pumped for the show music, and then we get to the next tour with Turnstile. We're like, maybe we should.
Yeah, can you do the same?
Yeah.
The band that's next door in their green room.
So instead, we just go, eat catering with them.
Yeah,
that's what we get done.
She said, maybe in another life, what a beautiful waste of time.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to another one of our convos. Today, joining us is another very special guest, band, group, Beauty School Dropout. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having us. How you doing?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Can't complain.
Excellent.
Heating up a little bit. It's quite hot here in LA.
Oh yeah, it's definitely cooking these days, and they say it's only going to get warmer, so I'm definitely not looking forward to all that.
Yeah, I'm trying to spend it at the beach.
Always a good option. So you guys got to be kind of buzzing. You guys came fresh off of a tour, right?
4 tours technically. We've been on the road for 4 months straight.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so it's been a lot. We're happy to be back for a little bit. Definitely able to like recalibrate and kind of reset before we head out for probably another 4 months, if not longer, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up. We hit a pretty massive stride this year with the live shows and the touring segment of BSD, and there's just no sign of it stopping, especially with the new music coming out and everything that we got cooking up. So we're just trying to lock it down and take care of ourselves, make sure we're Gucci to go.
Okay. Definitely going to talk about, obviously you guys got a lot going on with music and touring and everything going on, but we always like to kind of give people a little background into who you guys are, especially like some of our listeners who might not know who you are, who aren't familiar. So kind of how did you guys first form, and like what's the origins of the group?
Kind of a thread of events. It had started out, since I had moved up here, I knew I wanted to start a band, and I knew I wanted to front a project. I just didn't really know how, and so I think through a lot of trial and error, like I was in a project before where I met our drummer, and then as that was kind of falling apart, I had also met Beepus through his ex, and then soon after that, he had moved out. We started writing together, and we met Bardo at Winston House, which was like this place that we would throw private shows at back in the day. And we had a mutual friend performing. She introduced us. We got in the studio, cooked up, and the rest is history. We've been sleeping in the same bed ever since.
Yeah, and we forced Bardo to be in the band.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you guys actually been a band then, I guess, in total?
Coming up on 4 years.
It's 2019, right?
2019 is when we started.
End of 2019. And then we were prepping to go play shows.
I think we met in May, which is crazy because that's like exactly before we started playing shows the year later or 2 years later.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we were prepping to go start playing shows top of 2020, and then obviously the world shut down.
Yeah.
Everything just got throttled. It was like a blessing in a lot of ways for us though, because it kind of just like had us hole up and just work on our craft and figure out how to navigate being an artist strictly online.
Yeah.
Without the show aspect. But then that also made us really antsy for that way when May 2021 hit, we hit the ground running, started throwing parties. I wouldn't even call them shows per se. They were just like ragers. Like, yeah, literally. Yeah. And everyone was just like so ready to go outside of quarantine. We were actually throwing them before like it was actually allowed to have group gatherings.
Yeah.
The kids were just ready to party, and it was just madness for that whole year. We just kept throwing parties and playing them, and they were just like the most lit shows. Some of my favorite shows still to date, just because they were just such crazy energy. We would like flood the places with beer because kids were just like moshing and crowd surfing and stuff. And I think that was kind of like the initial phase of hype.
I want to bring that back.
Yeah. I think that's what we're going to return with in LA, because we've been on the road so much that we haven't actually played an LA show in a long time.
Yeah.
Since like last year, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's like this thing of like, well, how do we come back to LA? You know what I mean? Now that we're like here and we've been out doing things, played Madison Square Garden and, you know, other things like that. It's like, we've got to come back with a bang. So we're thinking, let's bring back the parties, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So like, I mean, it sounds like you guys kind of hit the ground running pretty fast, and you had like that whole kind of local, I don't know what you say, almost like gauntlet of just playing and like learning how to play together as a group. Like, so when you guys first formed, did you kind of just immediately kind of hit things off?
Yeah. Cole and I met like strictly as friends like almost 7 years ago. Yeah. Almost 7 years ago. And we just like hit it off, became besties, stayed in contact through me moving like to Arizona. And then eventually I moved back to LA. And then once Bardo came in the picture, he was just one of us. He had no choice though.
We had to coerce him into being in the band. He was like, not really about it. Not that I don't think he was necessarily opposed, but he definitely was like very much so in his producer chair. And we were like, no. You are going to be in this band and we're going to make great love together.
I had the mindset of like, I'll just be behind the scenes helping shape the vision. But then it's like still cool because I still got to be, you know, do that role, but just kind of be on stage with it too. So it all worked out great. I'm glad I got coerced as well.
Okay. And the name, how did it come about? Any meaning behind it? Like,
it was a subconscious thing. I mean, the easiest reference is Grease because we all have like our own ties to that. But truthfully, when I have something like a vision for something that I'm like dead set on, the first thing that I always do is like cycle through names until I get to the one. And at the time, I had called this project like, I called it like Doom, and then I called it something else, and then I was like, nah, this shit's like, I don't know, it sounds too dark for what it is.
Doom.
Oh yeah, 8mm porno. Like, it was like all over the place. But I was also very much so still finding myself as a writer and like my sonic palette, let alone ours as a group. And so it was funny. One of the early stories of the name was like, I had it and I'd been sitting on it as a potential artist name. And I remember one of the first cuts I got as a songwriter was with Highly Suspect. And I like remember Johnny, the singer, was asking me for my info for my publishing company, which is like usually just your name. But I was like, oh, dude, like, man, I've been really like going back and forth on this name, Beauty School Dropout. Like, do you think I should use that? And he's like, nah, bro, that's stupid. Like, just give me your name for publishing. And I was like, okay. but lo and behold, now it became the artist name. You know, it was just funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea. It was my first cut, really, aside from Gavin. But
Okay. So, I mean, obviously when you guys form and decide to like start making music together, you guys like kind of decide like what direction you want to go with your sound and music wise, and like how did you come to that decision, and like who were some of your like influences in terms of like music that you guys wanted to make?
Like two parts to that. The first part is we're so ADD and we just write whatever sonic palette we feel like it, and then try to make it sound like us because it is. So like a lot of the early stuff was like kind of like hip hoppy and like a little bit more like flowy, I would say, and like acoustic influences and stuff. And then later, it wasn't until later that we actually started leaning harder into rock.
I feel like early stuff really sounded like the Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounded like maybe like a darker, more rocky Neighborhood.
Yeah. And it just had, I feel like everything was like pulling from so much, because also Bardo like is an EDM style producer too in a lot of ways prior to doing this. And so like he pulled a lot of influence in that, especially in the early stuff. And then
we didn't figure out our sound. It took us a minute.
Yeah, we finally landed on kind of like what we have out now. Still kind of all over the place in like a good way.
It definitely, like, once we started entertaining shows and that aspect of things, I think we were fortunate enough to have a lot of people in our corner at the time who were like, no, like, everybody's so soft, you have to go harder.
Yeah.
We're like, what? Like, okay, like, you know, just because we love the heavy shit, we always have, but we've always kind of been like, you know, like, is that, you know, where do we really want to land? And so to hear some of our older like predecessors being like, no, go fucking hard, go crazy, like be that rock band. There's a really good affirmation because I think we were willing and ready for that. We just didn't know that that's where it needed to go. And I think that was a perfect gateway into us being like, all right, let's be fucking gnarly. Let's go. Let's really take this to the next level.
That wasn't really happening in rock at the moment. Everything was so soft. Like there's no heavy bands that were like front and center. Now it's changing again. But we were finding our palette in that era, and I think we just were guided by our mentors to be like, no, be authentic.
Yeah.
We like raging. Like our favorite part about this whole thing is playing crazy live shows. And our biggest influences collectively are like Turnstile and Bring Me the Horizon. And so like those are two bands that put on just a menace of a live show. Right? Yeah, Barta loves them. They put on they put on a menace of a live show too. It's just very different. But yeah, I think we're just like, even a lot of our stuff is like poppy, we still deliver it heavy as all fuck on stage. And so like, that's just, we finally found out who we are. He sticks his tongue out, goes. Yeah, I do stick my tongue out a lot. I'm like Miley Cyrus, bro. I do. Every fifth picture of me is like.
I mean, that's funny that you guys like point that out, because I thinking about it, like there's for sure like was an appetite for like heavier, harder music, especially coming out of like the pandemic and COVID and everything. And I think everybody's been kind of going that way, because even like in hip hop, things got like super emo and kind of soft at a point, and like I think people are just ready for like to let out a lot of that pent up energy over the time. So I wonder if that's something you guys notice playing these shows too.
Totally. Yeah, I think we pull a lot of influence from like hip hop and stuff, and like even like Uzi doing a Chop Suey cover.
Yeah,
it's like it's crazy. It's like
crazy. Even the fact that and Bring Me, they're both featuring each other's projects.
Yeah,
is a baby metal feature? Like, did you see it? The first song of the album is featuring baby metal.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's so cool. I think genres are now like literally just melting together.
Yeah,
more than ever, and I feel like rappers are like the biggest rock stars, and for a while they were the only rock stars. Like rock stars weren't even rock stars. It was all rappers that were like the sickest people because they just didn't give a fuck. It was the mentality, like be a rock star.
Yeah.
And I think now rock stars are now like coming up, and they're
definitely
doing
coming back.
Yeah, it's like so much crossover now. It's so sick.
Yeah. I think that's one like great thing about this generation, like especially like listeners and fans, is that they grew up listening like so much stuff that they're not so worried about like, oh, this is the genre I like, this is what I like they just kind of just accept whatever's out there, and like they just gravitate towards whatever like grabs them at the time.
Yeah, all these dads are the ones that are still gatekeeping.
Yeah. That's changing a little bit too, that's changing a little bit too.
It's evolving.
It is evolving. I just think it's so funny.
So you guys also had 2022, your first debut album, correctly?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We Made Plans and Got Laughed. So like, how was kind of the process of that? How was like the response to that, and like getting that out pretty soon after you guys formed?
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, the response was great. Like, it's been cool, especially because, I mean, the reality is that came out only a year ago, and we've grown so exponentially since then. I think a lot of it is attributed to that project specifically. So I'd say it's been a really fucking cool journey. We're definitely excited for the next round of music. And it's like funny because for how little music we put out at the moment, we definitely get like antsy very quick, and we're like, all right, cool, what are we doing next? So definitely looking forward to that. But I was really excited to be able to get like the actual foundation and push from a label and the co-signs from the people that we have around us. And I think it was like a pretty quick switch once that all happened, of like, it almost felt as though there was a newfound respect for the band from like our peers who were just like, oh, because at that time, especially pop punk, like MGK had just dropped his album. Pop punk was having this huge resurgence. Everyone was really, 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 really just on the Blink tip. which they still are, but the rock thing has kind of come back as an entire umbrella. And so at the time, I feel like a lot of the people around us were like, "Oh my God, you just signed to Mark?" Like, look,
Yeah.
look. God.
But it was cool. It was like in that moment we were getting affirmation from the legends in pop punk, and we weren't making pop punk in the same sense. So it was cool that they chose us to put on for the next wave of rock than just like kind of what everyone else was like doing. So they get kind of like validated that we were headed in the right direction by like legends, Pete Wentz and Mark Hoppus, and even we just got the co-sign by Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20 because we just opened for them in Tampa
today.
Yeah,
He's like, "Song of the day, BSD.way." I'm like,
it's so cool. Like all these legends, just like validating like what we're pursuing, and they think it's genuinely cool, and that's like the coolest compliment ever.
I mean, speaking about like Mark Hoppus, he's the one who got signed you first, right? Over at the label. Yeah. And obviously he has huge connections in music. He's with Blink-182, who's like one of the biggest bands ever. And like, how did that kind of relationship form, and how like pivotal has he been in your career to this point?
Pretty pivotal.
Should I say the way we met? Yeah. So like, we met the head of our label. Her name is Sherry, and she had like a list of bands that she was like pursuing for this label. And she sent an email, or so the story goes. She sent an email with like 30 bands to Mark Hoppus and Pete Wentz, and both of them only responded back with Beauty School Dropout. And so then that led into us going and getting lunch with both of them and hitting it off with both of them as well. And then we ended up signing February 2022. Yeah.
It's been pretty pivotal, just like Coley said, about the industry looks and how our peers view us, and just how even audience members view us. And it's like a giant cosign. It's like, yeah, these guys are legit, and they get the attention of some heavy hitters. But then also just like pure advice. They give great advice, and they genuinely care, and they like want us to be ourselves because they think what we do is cool. And it's great to get advice from people that we've looked up to our whole lives. So,
and people that have done it too, they're not just like suits.
Yeah,
they like get it.
Yeah,
they understand the artist side of it actually.
Yeah.
So like after like a meeting, Mark will like text us like, "You guys happy?" And like, I just like think that's the coolest question ever.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody would know, it'd be him, obviously touring all across the planet and being as big as they were throughout Blink-182's career. Obviously, like that connection with Blink-182, you guys also just went on tour with them. So, like, how was that? And also, I think Turnstile was also on that tour as well. So, okay, that's
and both those bands
pretty massive tour. So,
Blink and Turnstile are like two of our major influences. It was insane, like, to meet the entirety of Blink in their like original form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, we were just honestly so starstruck to hang out with Turnstile. Like we love their music so much, and we listen to it all the time. And to get to do that that was pretty cool. So
it's actually funny. On the tour we went on right before the Blink tour with Jaden, every day before the show we would blast Turnstile to hype us up.
Yeah,
and then
it's like literally our hype music.
It's literally our get pumped for the show music, and then we get to the next tour with Turnstile. We're like, maybe we should.
Yeah, can you do the same?
Yeah.
The band that's next door in their green room.
So instead, we just go, eat catering with them.
Yeah,
that's what we get.
That's so cool.
And they're honestly all so sweet, like so down to earth. Like it's fun. My favorite thing about it is like learning from people that we look up to and getting to ask questions and like, how do you guys do this, or how do you guys work out this thing? And it's really cool. So everyone, thankfully, on this journey has been really, really kind to us.
And that tour was just sick as fuck.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, Turnstile is definitely like one of my favorite current bands right now. I listen to go on pretty regularly. So like, all right, favorite songs, each one of you from Turnstile.
From Turnstile?
TLC or Don't Play.
I really like Endless.
He's crazy.
Or Underwater Boy.
Yeah,
Underwater Boy slaps. Damn, that was I'm gonna have to say Blackout though, just because that was the song that got me hooked on.
That was the first song that started it all.
Yeah, Glow On. That when you showed me that album, I was like, damn, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
I would all the entire tour. I'd walk on the backstage going do do do, and like I'm sure they were just like, what the fuck are these boys doing? I was like,
That means Blue's Clues needs to do a tribute.
Wow.
Insane. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Wow.
No, I mean, it's obviously a wild thing, like to be able to tour with obviously bands and people that you guys look up to so much. And I was like Blink-182 for me, I think they were one of like the originators of like blending all these different genres into creating this sound that I think a lot of bands and artists are kind of pulling from these days. So like, what was the experience playing with them and opening for them? And like, were you guys able to like learn anything from Turnstile or Blink-182 in terms of like your performances and playing to a crowd?
I think more so than the performance aspect, learning about the technicalities of operation and what goes into putting on an arena show, and like everything from behind the scenes to like working with a tech to working with an entire crew of people. Because I mean, essentially, like they're coming into an empty building and they're staffing everybody and putting everybody to work with the stage production and bringing in 24 semi trucks of load in to put on this whole entire spectacle. So I think that was one of the most exciting things. Also, ironically, like one of the most relaxing parts of it, because there's so much space and so much availability to move as you please, that there's like less, I think, pressure going into the show. It feels very like, this is a well-oiled machine. Cool.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
On the show side, though, it definitely is inspiring to see how Blink interacts with each other on stage. Like Mark and Tom's banter is just so seasoned.
It's crazy.
Even with having them been apart for a little bit, you can just, it's palpable. Like, and it's so funny how they interact with each other and fans from the stage. And I think palpable. I'm not an English major.
Palatable.
This is why he writes lyrics. And just like we got to learn a lot from that too, because like we were post that like we want to pull from like their kind of banter, even though we kind of already had just like the seamlessness of it was so sick.
We're just always learning. In every scenario we're in, we're just like, just taking notes and just figuring out how, okay, they do that. That's interesting. Okay, so yeah, we could probably do that, you know, like oh, they, you know, oh, we don't want to do that. That didn't work.
We do take notes too.
So,
I mean, obviously not too many bands that you could learn from in a better way than like Blink-182. So that's super dope that you guys like got that experience, especially so early on in your career. I also noticed that you guys opened up sometimes playing Lil Uzi, So I Just Want to Rock on some of your shows. So
yeah, bro, that's the hype song.
We still do it. That when on our headline stuff, we like to open our. We just like it's a good vibe. Honestly, as much as it's for the crowd,
I love
it's
Uzi,
for
bro.
us. It's for us when we're side stage.
So
you should
much.
see us all like dancing together.
I want to work on a record with him so bad. He is so lit.
I think he's probably one of the most unique like artists I've ever seen, especially in like this modern era of music. Like his ability to kind of just cross genres and just do anything he wants is insane.
He is. He's smart. He's been ahead of the curve. I was just watching his interview with Ebros, and Ebros was like giving him shit. It was back when he was, I think, like 20 or 21 or some shit. But Ebros is like giving him a hard time because he didn't want to rap on this like old 90s beat. And he was like, he's like, nah, bro, shit's changing. Like, I need 808s and whatever. And he like definitely offended the host. And so it was like this whole funny thing. But he's like, nah, bro, like I'm a rock star. Like things are changing. Like how this is gonna go. Lo and behold, that's like 7 years later. Of course, it's like exactly what it is.
Yeah,
and
he definitely was like a big part of like this wave, especially in like rap, where everything kind of took a huge shift into like this different sound wave.
remember back with who was that? Was that the year that Juice World Designer and everybody was all on like the same plate for XXL?
It was XXX, Juice World Designer, and Lil Uzi,
That's
right?
fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was. I think that was all.
And maybe Lil Dicky.
one roster.
I think he was. I don't know if Juice WRLD was on there yet, but I know Designer was on there, and Dickie, and like Ugly God, and other people like that.
Yeah.
Crazy. I think Lil Dicky was.
No, I know. I remember.
Yachty might have been on there too.
Oh, yeah.
Lil Yachty.
Dude, Poland, that song. I saw this video. He played it 6 times back to back to back in Poland.
That's awesome.
He played something in Warsaw, and he's like, it just kept clipping through, and everyone by the end was so lit. It was insane.
Lil Yachty is funny as fuck. He's also a pioneer. That last album he dropped, you listen to that?
Yeah, I did.
Bro, what? That shit's crazy. What a swing.
Yeah, that was
complete unexpected left field turn from him. Like,
love that shit though, bro. Like, fuck the narrative. Go make something wild and then come back and just like throw it on everyone.
Honestly though, that's why we pull from like other genres than rock more so than anything right now, because everyone else is doing cooler shit than rock is still, and like pushing boundaries.
Rock is pretty lame still.
Yeah.
There's some hitters in there, and there's some little things, but like 80% of it is not super cool.
That's why we're trying to change it.
I mean, I think the younger generation is noticing, like, you have all these different influences. Now you're like bringing it into rock and creating it like this own new thing. And I think that's why everybody's so excited for like the new direction of that music is taking.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's like a big opportunity right now for it to take shape in a way that it hasn't before, which is like, I think kind of what he's saying when he's like, it's not cool. It's like, it's not even necessarily that it's not cool. It's just not cool anymore. You know, a lot of people that are entering the rock space or come in the rock space, we believe, follow this archetype that's existed for so long. And it's like, it's almost like a picket fence around their house that they can't leave. And it's like, bro, like, throw some sampling in, do some crazy vocal chops, like push the envelope with the production and like the sauce that's a lot live and like how you present yourself. Cause it's like, that was what this rock and roll shit started with, was like, bro, look at Kiss in the 60s painting their face and wearing like 6-inch platforms. They're still doing it. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with like a lot of like these, I guess, traditional genres and just genres in general, is like whenever it gets a name or a label, you build all these boundaries and walls to it when it didn't start out that way. It just started as we're trying to make something cool, and like this is what it sounded like. So now I think the walls are slowly coming down, but you know, it's going to take a lot more artists coming up that grew up on all these different sounds to like really change things.
Totally. Granted, we say that with love. Like, we love the rock space and everyone in it and like what's happening. I think it's more so the tough love thing of like, we believe there's more.
Yeah.
And it's not being tapped into yet, at least not by
mainstream yet.
Yeah.
I think we keep finding so many dope artists. Like, thanks so much. And like, it's just like so many people, honestly. And like, we're just like, we can't wait until more people hear this shit. Yeah. So that way, like, it pushes the envelope.
Until it gets to the point where you're like, damn, I wish less people heard about him now. Now that he's like too big and popular.
Yeah. There's room for everyone. I want everyone to get as big as they possibly can.
Yeah, we're not gatekeepers. We want everyone to win.
We just like to we like to push everybody. We're like, it's the subtle nudge of like, do better. Why not? Like we're pushing ourselves to try and do that. Like, well, why shouldn't you?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, speaking about push things and new music, obviously you guys, you know, it seems like you guys are building up to like a new album. You have 3 releases so far, Freak, Dying to Be You, and by the time this comes out, it'll be Beautiful Waste.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can definitely see like kind of an evolution and like a change and maybe a little more confidence in your music. Like, do you guys notice any like evolution in your sound since your like last album?
Definitely. I mean, we were even talking about it earlier, this rollout that we did. It was very kind of all over the place litmus testing the different sonics of this album. Like, I feel like the 3 singles that we released are kind of like the different ends of the spectrum that we land on with the sonic palette of this next project. And I think that's also something that's exciting, is like looking forward to everyone being able to hear what comes in between all that. But yeah, it's a constant evolution. I mean, we're definitely tapping into new rhythms and new sounds that we did from the last album. Also, I think we did a lot more of it ourselves this time around.
Okay.
When the last project was like, we got thrown through the ringer of like songwriters and producers and you know, which like ultimately we songwrite and produce for other people already. So it's like, we're very capable, you know, but it never hurts to obviously have other talent in the room and like great ideas off each other. So I think for this next project that's coming out, we're really excited for like the fact that we had much more of a hands-on process this time around. And I think it's a little bit more curated and tailored to what we wanted and like how we want to present ourselves.
And this shows our spectrum of our palette. We don't want to be like one style.
Yeah.
I think I forever want to be able to drop a song like Dying to Be You and then a song like Beautiful Waste, because they don't live in the same exact world, but they live in our world.
Okay.
So,
yeah. I mean, they still sound like it's you. Like, they're not, you know, obviously like topic wise and, you know, sonically a little bit different, but they definitely still all have like kind of that imprint that you guys have had from the music that I've heard from you before. And speaking about like Dying to Be You, obviously the video was like a lot of tour footage, which just looked insane, being on those earlier tours and whatnot. It's also like about mental health. So can you kind of like speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, man, we get depressed.
Yeah. we all struggle with the same shit as everyone else, and I just feel like it's so relevant right now to talk about it. Like, it's okay finally to talk about how much it sucks sometimes.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of just offering our humility to the table, just being like, yo, we have our bad days. It's painfully true. And honestly, probably a lot more than people really even expect or anticipate. So that was kind of an ode to coming out of one of those little depressive mentee days.
And it touches on imposter syndrome a lot too, which I think is something that we heavily struggle with in this like come up.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something groundbreaking, because I've gone along with it every time that we've talked about this in interviews. I actually don't struggle with that at all.
I struggle with it.
Not that that's a bad thing to struggle with. I just also have like, I realize we've talked about that a lot, and I've always kind of like, do I really? I'm like,
okay, maybe he doesn't. But
I think I was more on the depressive broad, whatever, like
sure,
super depressed episode.
When
side of that,
the song was being written, Dying to Be You, and like I've been killing myself, Dying to Be You, it like resonated with me personally that it was imposter syndrome, because like I'm trying to be someone that I've created in my mind.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't feel like that person in the moments, like especially like on the Blink tour and shit. Sometimes I was like, holy shit, why am I here? Like, I don't feel like I deserve it, but I also do feel like I deserve it.
Yeah.
It's this, and it weirdly makes you sad, but then you're happy, and I don't know. That's my takeaway. That's why I love that song. That's my favorite song we've ever made to date.
It is definitely a banger, and I've, you know, there's some live footage of you guys out there playing it. It definitely seems to resonate like with crowds heavily, especially when you're playing it live, and that seems to bring the energy out of people for sure.
Some pure high octane.
Turbo Diesel.
Okay, speaking about Beautiful Waste, not out yet, but I have heard it. It's coming August 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Another banger. This one speaking about kind of like relationships, right? And like kind of like, I don't know about toxic relationships, but trying to force stuff that's not like working.
Bardo once said, I can take you to breakfast.
This is how you sum up the song. I can take you out to breakfast, but he can take you around the world. And that's basically what the song is about.
Okay.
It's a very, also to quote earlier, something we were talking about is like the song's very just like hopeless and horny. That's it. It was like, I don't know. We laugh because especially after we just toured the world, like you see all these different cultures, all these different types of people, and then LA you get to, and it's just like there's a very specific breed of like people out here that's so different.
Yes.
Because there's such a influx of people who are like really trying to become something, which is like totally cool. That's the point. But it is funny what it creates within people because you get a lot of like people who want more of the material things or less of the connection or are too worried that a connection will never even happen in the first place. So they're so jaded by that they're like, oh, everyone sucks. And it's like,
yeah,
I guess like
everyone says that about LA, but they all live here.
Yeah,
they're
it's like
everyone sucks in LA, and I'm like, no, LA is the dopest place ever because there's every type of person here, and like you just gotta find your people and be open-minded. Like I don't know, it's like the funniest weird thing to hear everyone in LA say they hate LA, but then they love it. I don't know, I love it.
It's always a love-hate thing for a place that's like as big and popular as that. You can go anywhere and people will say the same thing. Like New York will say the same shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Okay, I mean, speak about playing in Europe. Like, how was that experience? Was that your first time going over there?
Second time.
First time? I had never been ever.
First time to Europe proper. Last year we did Reading and Leeds. We did a little run of UK stuff.
Okay.
And then this time we did UK and Europe. 2 tours back to back. The European crowd,
It's crazy.
they go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, normally people say like European crowds are like levels above.
Bro.
It's crazy. They appreciate the concert experience a whole lot differently.
Yeah.
They're like there to be a part of the experience. Like we went to the Czech Republic. We'd never been to the Czech Republic. First song in, everyone's clapping for the whole tempo, and we're like, they were opening pits just because they wanted to. It wasn't like open this pit now. They just did it, you know. And I think they just really value the experience. It's cool to enjoy the concert versus it's cool to look cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In America, it's a lot cooler to look cool and be at the concert. But they're there
to show that you're having that experience instead of actually like being at the experience.
The band or the act before us, literally at Rock the People in the Czech Republic, was the National Symphony of the Czech Republic. And there was mosh pits for the National Symphony.
Slow mosh
The
pit.
greatest thing I've ever seen. Orchestral pit. It was insane. Dope. They started rowing. They like all conjoined like legs on the
Like
ground.
some Amon Amarth shit. Huh?
Yeah. Bro. We were like, what
It was the coolest thing. We'd like just gone off this plane. We had like 2 hours of sleep and just like, what are we walking into? This is crazy.
Really set the tone for the day.
So we went from symphony to Beauty School Dropout. That's like a crazy shit right there.
Straight up.
It was pretty awesome.
It was so cool. Definitely one of the coolest acts that have ever played before us.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, like I said, you guys have a lot of great music out. Definitely like building. I can definitely see the momentum, and I can definitely see you guys, you know, doing everything that's right and making all the right choices musically. Definitely excited to see what you guys do in the future. Maybe we'll get the album this year, possibly.
Yeah.
This year, yeah.
Q3.
It's coming.
Okay.
You said this is dropping. We should just spill the name.
The album's called Ready to Eat. It's going to be out in October.
Okay. Ready to see October.
Yeah.
There's some leak.
I got exclusive. There we go. First, heard it here first. Ready to Eat. Beauty School Dropout October.
Oh yeah.
So you guys have any future plans? Obviously, outside the album, you have some tours, some shows, festivals coming.
Touring.
We got Lollapalooza. We got Aftershock, Louder Than Life, and more touring this year. Nothing set in stone yet besides those festivals, but it is coming. So be on the lookout.
All right. Everybody listening and watching, definitely go follow these guys on the streams. Go run those streams up on Spotify where you guys listen to music. Thank you guys for taking the time out to talk to us. Super dope music. love the new singles that you got. Beautiful Waste, Dying to Be You. Maybe
Yes,
my
sir.
favorite songs you guys have made so far. Personally, I think that shit goes hard. So
Thank you.
very else to hear what you guys got coming.
Hell yeah, man. We appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time and having us.
For sure. And thank you guys for joining us.
Anytime.
Much love.
The use of marijuana